RI プレゼンツ
Sea People Mountain People Chapter 2 Encounter with Mythology. Previous overview. When they arrived in Hankenaikotan, Tokapcup and the others went to the place of discussion, but the discomfort they felt in the room reminded Touka of something. Speaking of which, there is a description that Susanoo no Makoto pacified this land by defeating the eight-pronged serpent. Of course, I don't believe that the eight-pronged serpent exists. The story has been interpreted as a story made up by simulating a river as a serpent. But in that case, it should be titled Defeating the Serpent instead of Defeating the Eight-Pronged Serpent. There must be a reason why they went out of their way to make it eight-pronged. As soon as I walked into the room, such a thought came to my mind instantly. The next moment, I called out to Tokapcup, "Stop." At that moment, her body reacted with a jerk, and then she stopped. Then I told her that I had something to know, and I asked her how many representatives of Kodan were in the room. She looked around the room and then used her finger to tell me how many people there were. 9. The number of Kodan representatives was 9, not 8. When I learned about the number of people, I wondered if I was overthinking it. But there was one more thing I wanted to make sure, so I asked her to make sure that Yukakima was outside. She gave a small nod before leaving the room and looking around. Found him. A short distance away, I saw the figure of Yukakima sitting on a rock. I was relieved the moment I saw him, and at the same time, I thought he was a stalker at this point, but I forgive him for the time being. So I asked her to call him here and tell him to look around the situation in this Kodan. I told her that I wanted her to wait here until he returned. In the meantime, a banquet had begun in the room, and I could hear voices and laughter from inside. Why, Susa hasn't come yet, but the banquet has begun. Even though the banquet was hosted by Susa, the banquet started without the organizer. Isn't this really rude? Or did Susa contact them to start the banquet? There's no point in worrying about that now, and it's important to understand the situation first. Let's wait for Yukakima to return and then analyze it. Not long after Yukakima left the place, her father came out of the room. Dad told her to go back to her room because there was a message from Susa that she would be late and the banquet had begun. This is a good opportunity. When Dad returned to the banquet hall, we decided to take a look around the kotan. However, as soon as her started walking, Tokapcup's feet stopped. When I wondered what was wrong with me, she muttered softly, "I can't find children." Come to think of it, in Palakotan the children are playing cheerfully until the sun goes down, but they are not here. I see a few adults, but it's impossible to see the children at all at this time. And the number of adults is too small. As we walked further around the area, the scene was the same, and we met up with Yukakima on the way, and he felt the same way. However, I was curious, but it was the first time I had come to this kotan, and I didn't feel anything unusual other than that, so we decided to go back to the room we were staying in and see how it went. After returning to the room, Yukakima sometimes went to check on the banquet hall, but the sun went down without seeing any particular changes. The anomaly happened suddenly. It was completely dark outside the room, there was nothing to do, and we were feeling sleepy when we heard a man yelling from outside. When we were startled by the man's voice and woke up, Yukakima quickly stood up and walked out of the room, saying, "I'm going to see how it goes, stay here." Tokapcup was also worried, so her opened the door to the room and looked outside, but due to the darkness around her, couldn't see the situation from this place. As she watched at the entrance of the room, she saw Yukakima running towards her with swift footsteps. "He's upset and something is dangerous." He spoke hurriedly, and when Tokapcup reached out to him to calm him down, he grabbed her hand and tried to run. Today's story ends. The continuation of the story will be updated tomorrow. Please look forward to. If you like, please subscribe to the channel. See you again.